She said she had to work late, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. That night, I followed her, and what I saw changed everything I thought I knew about us. If anything, I was trying too hard to ignore the one that had already shown up, in her voice, her eyes, the way her hand tightened around her bag strap when she told me she'd be staying late at the office. Elena was always composed. Polished, but not in a fake way. The kind of woman who chose her words with care and never wasted anyone's time with half-truths. That's why when she said, "I'll be working late," I nodded. Smiled. Said something dumb like, "Don't stay too long, the city gets weird after dark." But as she turned away, something in her expression stuck with me. It was subtle. Most people wouldn't have noticed, but I always did with her. I noticed the way her jaw tensed before she smiled. How she didn't hold my gaze like she usually did. And how her fingers brushed mine at the doorframe, then quickly disappeared into the sleeve of her coat. I watched her walk toward the elevator. Tall. Graceful. A kind of stillness wrapped around her even when she moved. But that night, it felt different. Not cold. Just distant. And that distance stayed with me long after she was gone. I tried to brush it off. Went home. Made dinner. Opened my laptop. Stared at the blinking cursor for an hour without typing a single word. Every part of me wanted to let it go, to believe her. But something gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't suspicion. It was silence. A silence that suddenly felt heavy between us. Something that used to feel like comfort now felt like a wall. Around 9 p.m., I gave in. I threw on a jacket, stepped into the cool night air, and told myself I was just going for a walk. But my steps led me in one direction, toward her office building. The streets were quieter than usual, humming with the low buzz of neon signs and the occasional rattle of a passing bus. I shoved my hands into my pockets and tried not to think about what I was doing. I wasn't proud of it. But I needed clarity more than I needed pride. As I got closer to her building, I rehearsed what I'd say if I saw her. Forgot something, maybe. Or, was just in the area. Both were lies. But then again, maybe she was lying too. When I reached the corner across from her office, I stopped beneath the faded street lamp and looked up. Her window was dark. And something inside me, cracked a little. She wasn't there. The lie settled into my chest with a quiet kind of weight. Not loud or dramatic, just sharp. Clean. Like cold glass pressing into skin before it breaks. I should have turned around. I should have gone home. But something pulled me forward, not suspicion anymore, not even anger, just the need to see. To know. Her building was across the street from a row of cafes and late-night places, the kind of spots you'd only notice if you weren't in a rush. And as I wandered toward the corner, something caught my eye. Her. She was walking 2 blocks ahead, turning off the main road onto a quieter lane lined with string-lit bistros. Her coat was open now, showing a navy dress I hadn't seen earlier. Not work attire. Not casual either. It clung to her in the kind of way that made me suddenly too aware of how long I'd looked at her without really seeing her. Then I saw him. A man, tall, maybe mid-40s, good posture, silver at his temples. He stood waiting outside a wine bar with his hands in his coat pockets, scanning the street. The moment he spotted her, his face lit up, and when she reached him, she laughed. It wasn't a forced laugh. It was real. Natural. And it wrecked me. They didn't embrace. But the way she touched his arm when she said something, the way he leaned in to listen, it said more than any hug ever could. I ducked back into the shadow of a closed florist shop, half hiding like some kid caught in a story he didn't belong to. I told myself to leave. To walk away before I saw something I couldn't unsee. But I didn't move. They stood there a while, talking like old friends. Not flirtatious. But close. Comfortable. Familiar. It wasn't the man who broke me, it was her. Because she didn't look like the woman I knew. She looked lighter. Looser. As if she'd stepped into a version of herself that didn't carry all the guarded silences and cautious pauses she kept around me. And maybe that's what hurt the most. I thought we had something rare, something building. Quietly. Carefully. A closeness that lived in the space between held gazes and brushed hands. But watching her now, I wasn't so sure anymore. I stepped back from the corner. The wind picked up, and her laughter floated faintly down the street behind me. I didn't wait to see them go inside. I didn't need to. The next morning, I told myself I'd be fine. That I'd see her, say good morning, keep it professional. No lingering. No hoping. No questions she'd never answer honestly. I didn't sleep much, barely a couple of hours. Her laugh kept looping in my head. Not the sound itself, but the ease behind it. The way her shoulders dropped when she was with him. The way her face softened in a way I used to think she reserved just for me. But when I saw her that morning, she looked exactly the same. Same soft smile. Same polished calm. Same Elena. She walked into the office with a to-go coffee in one hand and a file folder in the other, a scarf loosely wrapped around her neck. Her hair was pinned up, one strand curling loose against her cheek, the same way it always did. "Morning," she said, stopping by my desk. Her voice was light, cheerful even. "Did you end up finishing that grant proposal?" I looked up from my screen, and for a second, I forgot how to answer. Because there it was again, that practiced composure. The quiet elegance. And a lie. I nodded. "Yeah. Late night." She smiled. "You should have texted. I would have helped." "Would you have?" She placed the folder on my desk, then turned to go. I watched the way her fingers adjusted the strap of her bag, the same hand that had rested on that man's arm less than 12 hours ago. I wanted to ask her why. Not even about the man, not really. I just wanted to know why she felt the need to hide from me. But I didn't ask. Because how do you ask someone why they wore a different version of themselves for someone else? Later that morning, she came back to hand me a coffee. "Your usual," she said, gently setting it down near my notebook. I looked at her hands, graceful, always steady, and wondered if he had touched them last night. If he had kissed her cheek. If her laugh had been followed by anything more. And yet, as she stood there, waiting for me to respond, something in her eyes faltered. Just for a moment. Maybe she saw the edge in my smile. Maybe she felt the distance I couldn't hide. "Thanks," I said, voice low. She hesitated. "You okay?" I gave a small shrug. "Didn't sleep much." She nodded like she understood. But didn't ask why. And just like that, she walked away. It had been 4 days since I saw her with him. 4 days of polite hellos and quiet tension. 4 days of unfinished thoughts, of pretending everything was normal when it wasn't. Not for me. I kept waiting for her to say something. Anything. A hint, a slip, a crack in that polished calm. But she never did. And maybe that was what broke me. So I texted her. "Are you free for coffee after work? Just us." She replied within a minute. "Sure. Same place." There was something almost cruel in her ease. Or maybe I was just hoping she'd be nervous, too. We met at the garden cafe tucked behind the library, the one with climbing ivy and mismatched chairs. It was our unofficial meeting place. Quiet. Hidden. No expectations. She arrived before me, sitting alone with a paperback open and her coat still buttoned. She looked beautiful, of course. She always did. But today, something about her looked guarded. Her smile came slow when she saw me. Not cold. Just careful. I sat down across from her. She closed her book and waited. I didn't want to waste time dancing around it. So I leaned forward, voice low. You told me you were working late that night. Her posture didn't change, but her fingers froze around the spine of her book. She didn't speak, not right away. I continued, gently. I walked by your building. You weren't there. I gave her a second. Maybe two. Then I saw you, with him. Her throat moved as she swallowed. Then finally, she looked at me. You followed me? Her voice wasn't angry. Just quiet. Surprised. Maybe something else I couldn't name. I didn't plan to. I just couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. She nodded slowly, lowering her eyes to her coffee. Her hands wrapped around the cup like it was keeping her grounded. I'm not proud of it, I added. But I didn't know what else to do. You wanted to know the truth, she finished for me, voice barely above a whisper. We sat in silence for a while. Not awkward. Just full, with all the words we hadn't said in weeks. Then she looked up again, and this time, I saw it. The crack in her composure. Not shame. Not guilt. Fear. I didn't lie to hurt you, she said. I didn't know how to explain it. Or how much of it I even wanted to explain. I nodded. You don't owe me anything, Elena. I just thought we were. Her hand moved instinctively, landing softly on the edge of the table near mine. We are, she said quietly. That's what makes this so complicated. The garden cafe hummed softly around us, the clink of dishes, a soft jazz track bleeding through old speakers, the occasional laugh from a nearby table. But we sat in stillness, like the world had shifted just slightly off-center. Elena looked down at her untouched coffee. Her fingers were tracing the rim slowly, as if the movement helped her think. Then she said it, barely above a whisper. That man you saw, he's my ex-husband. I didn't react. I just listened. We meet once a year to sort through old paperwork. Bank stuff. Property. It's not romantic, it's functional. She paused, eyes flicking up to mine. But I didn't want to tell you. Because I didn't want to explain why I went. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. Why did you? She let out a soft, tired breath. Because I wanted to feel like the woman I used to be. Just for a night. There was no bitterness in her voice. No drama. Just honesty. I wore that dress because I used to wear it when we went out together. I wanted to see if I still fit into that version of myself. If I could still laugh at his jokes, still feel untouched by everything that's happened since. She paused, and this time her voice caught. But the moment I saw him, I realized I didn't fit there anymore. That version of me, the one I thought I missed, she's gone. And I think, she looked at me again, and her eyes were wet but clear. I think it's because of you. My chest tightened. You make me feel things I didn't think I could feel again, she continued. Not just attraction. Not just comfort. You make me feel vulnerable. Like I want things again. And that terrifies me. I wanted to reach across the table and take her hand, but I didn't. I let her speak. I've built walls, you know, she said, trying to smile. I got good at keeping people out. Too good. And then you came along, younger, yes, but also quieter. Kinder. You don't push. You listen. She looked down. And somehow, you got in. I didn't say anything for a moment. I didn't want to rush the quiet honesty between us. Finally, I said softly, you never had to be anyone else with me, Elena. Not the woman you used to be. Not someone safer. Just, you. She looked at me then, really looked. And this time, her gaze didn't slip away, she didn't say goodbye when she stood up from the cafe table. She just gave me that look, the one I'd come to recognize in her. A softness behind the eyes, a hesitation at the edge of her lips, like she wanted to say something else but didn't trust herself to say it. "I need time," she said instead. "To figure out, if I'm brave enough for this." And I knew what she meant. Not just us. But what "us" would mean, in her world, in mine, in a world that wouldn't look kindly on the shape of our connection. I could have begged her to stay. Asked her to fight for it right now. But I didn't. Because something in me, maybe the part that loved her the most, understood that if I really wanted her, I had to let her walk away. So I did. I watched her leave, her coat catching the wind as she turned the corner. And when she disappeared, the street felt quieter. Less real somehow. That night, I didn't message her. The next day, I didn't stop by her office. I gave her what she asked for, space. But that didn't mean I forgot. Every morning, I walked the same route to work. Past the same garden cafe where we used to meet. Sometimes I'd glance in, just in case. Most of the time, it was empty. Once or twice, I thought I saw someone who looked like her, that same posture, that same deliberate stillness, but it was never her. The city kept moving. People passed. Emails came and went. Life pressed forward, but I was stuck somewhere in between silence and hope. Weeks passed. I stopped counting after 3. Then, one afternoon, I passed the cafe again, not expecting anything, not looking, really, and she was there. At our table. Same scarf. Same eyes. Same unreadable expression. Her coffee was untouched. She looked up as I froze mid-step. And for the first time since that night, she smiled. Not the practiced kind, not polite or professional, but soft. Real. Almost shy. I walked over slowly, unsure if I should speak. But she beat me to it. "Sit," she said quietly, motioning to the chair across from her. "If you still want to." I sat. And neither of us rushed to fill the silence.